At its core, Devil Daggers is an FPS where the only objective is to survive as long as possible. Unlike other FPS games, points and kills are a non-factor, and the only thing that contributes to your spot on the leaderboard is your time. Nothing else. The game outside of this is very minimalistic. There's no variety of weapons, no reloads, and there's only one map. Which even then, it's just a circular platform. Although there's only one stage, there's a decent pool of enemies, all of which need to be dealt with in their own different ways. For example, Skull 1s are your basic enemy with the lowest health pool and they die almost immediately. Skull 2s just seem to run around randomly and they're the only enemy that doesn't actively seek out the player. Skull 3s are just assholes. They chase you and their acceleration is that of a rocket, and they have a stupid laugh which I hate. It's ingrained into my soul eternally. Anyways, on top of there only being one stage, the game is almost exactly the same every single time you play it, in some aspects of course, meaning that each enemy and each spawner has a set spawn time that never changes. The only thing that changes in between runs is the location of the spawns, as there's some variety, which will make every run feel slightly different. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention this, but absolutely everything kills you immediately on touch. There's no lives, no second chances, no checkpoints, no pausing. One mistake and you're starting all the way back at 0 seconds. With all of this, your only tools for survival is your hand, which shoots streams and bursts of daggers, and your movement. How far that takes you in this infinite loop in hell is completely up to your skill and practice, and absolutely nothing else. Unlike almost every other game in existence, Devil Daggers has absolutely no music. Every sound you hear in the game is produced by enemies or by yourself in the form of shooting and collecting gems. While you might think this is simply lazy design choice, it actually fits the environment very well. It gives a feeling of discomfort, and it's not done for no reason. With so much shit on the screen at any one time, it may be hard to track everything that's going on, but the game does a very good job of mediating this with the sounds given. Each enemy has their own sound effect or distinct noise. I'm not going to cover them all in this video, but the best examples of this would be spiders spawning, the skull 3s on your ass, and gigapede spawns. This, in turn, gives a player a good situational awareness, as it's very obvious where enemies are coming from and how close they are relative to you, giving you more information about what's going on and what the best course of action would be in terms of priority targeting and movement. As I said earlier, the gameplay at its core is very simple. You move and you shoot. That's it. But there's some choices a player needs to make at every moment, which can be the difference between a survival or a reset. The movement choices you have at any one time are the following: standing still, moving, jumping, and rocket jumping. All of these have their timings for when they should be used. For example, you may want to stand still for centipedes, as it makes them fairly consistent to take out. At almost every other time, you probably want to do some form of movement to get out of the way of the hundreds of skulls hunting you. You also have the choice to jump and bunny hop to gain speed and some momentum, which might get you out of a slippery situation, but then you lose some sense of control while you're in the air and you could go flying straight towards a tower for your demise. You also always have the option for a rocket jump, performed by jumping and shooting a shotgun into the ground at the same time, and this could get you out of some sticky situations, especially with gigapedes, but if you time it incorrectly, you might just die by jumping into something or just running into something. So again, it's fully up to you. The only options for shooting is streaming, shotgunning, and not shooting at all. While the first two may seem self-explanatory, streaming is better for single targeting and long-range fire, and shotgun would be better for area of effect close range. Shotgunning is actually technically better in some situations, as a DPS can be higher than streaming at certain gun levels using a specific shotgun tech. Again, something I'm not going to get into this video, but basically it's an advanced technique used to shorten the time between shotgun blasts. Again, the choice between shotgunning and streaming is almost always dependent on individual playstyle, and like there are technically situations where one's better, but both are almost always viable. So you might be wondering, why would you ever stop shooting if there's no reload time? Well, the answer is actually quite simple. Whenever you kill an enemy that's not a Skull 1 or a Skull 4, they will drop a gem. To collect a gem, you can either A, walk over it, which may be more difficult later on as more enemies spawn, and getting control of them should always be the priority, or B, you can stop shooting. When you stop shooting, gems fly towards your player and auto-collect when they collide with you. These gems are important. They are the only way for you to get stronger as the game progresses. As hands, there are 4 levels. You start with level 1, at 10 gems you get level 2, then at 70 you get level 3, then at 150 you get level 4. With each upgrade, the strength of both your stream and shotgun blasts gets stronger, which simply makes killing enemies easier and faster. You also unlock a new ability at hand 3 and hand 4 called Tracking Daggers, which will automatically seek and destroy enemies, but you can only use this by expending the gems you have collected. Which, again, this can also get you out of a lot of tough situations, as you basically just have additional automatically tracking firepower. I feel like this is a really well-made mechanic because it makes gems not only important early game to try and get to the level 4 hand as fast as possible, but also it still stays important later on to increase your number of tracking daggers, which will also help in terms of survival. On the surface, you may think the decision between shooting and not shooting is simple, but it's actually one of the hardest things I found when starting to get used to. Opting to not shoot when there's hundreds of enemies chasing you to try and collect gems for a potential upgrade is kind of hard to get used to, but also you're trusting just your movement and nothing else to survive those 3-4 seconds to collect gems, which in game, one slip up and you're going all the way back to the start. Since the game is the same every time you play it in terms of enemy spawns and when they spawn, players that are more advanced or better or have more game time understand the early game very well and have developed different strategies for the game. Clearing everything as you see it is called no farm, which basically makes you have more consistent runs because, well, there's just less things on the screen. But if you leave the spawners up, which I call squids, they spawn more enemies, which cause you to get more gems early on. The trade-off, more enemies spawn and your chances of dying are higher. Again, you could get high level runs, or high time runs I guess, with either strategy, but it's fully up to the player to decide what they want to do, what strategy they want to execute, what gun type they want to prefer, when they want to use them, and what kind of movement they want to use. The last thing I want to touch on is the community aspect of this game. Everyone that I've interacted with on my stream and on Discord and otherwise has been really helpful to me personally, giving me tips and tricks and advice to get better at the game. People create guides and strategies to help, and there's even a practice tool which lets you spawn at specific times to practice how to improve a specific part to try and increase your personal best. This was also developed by the community, so it's completely free for anyone to use, and again, really helpful in terms of learning the game, especially if you're a newer player. With all of this in mind, the time system is something that brings an inherent competitive nature to the game. While the game is single player, you are constantly competing against yourself to try and increase your highest score, but you're also competing against your friends to try and see who's the best person. And trust me, getting a high score, it feels really, really good, and it's really satisfying. Beating people is also very nice, and the best example I could show you of that would be in my last video, and feel free to check that out if you want to see what that might look like. The beauty in this system is that if you have the higher time, you are simply better at the game. No kill count, no gem collection, nothing else matters. If you could manage to beat your time record by not shooting a single shot, so be it. But the best time you get represents your skill. If someone gets higher, they are simply better than you, and there's just no arguing that, because they've done something you physically have not done, which is survive in the stage for that period of time. This game is fun. This game is really fun, and I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy the grind and trying to reach new heights for myself. The game's also only about $5, so it's fairly accessible, and for the content given, I would say it's an extremely fair price. At the time of recording, I have 42 hours in game, and I intend to dump a ton more until I reach the only achievement the game has to offer, reaching 500 seconds. Only a couple hundred people have this achievement, and I intend to make myself one of them. After that, I'm probably just going to try and climb the global leaderboards as high as I possibly can, just because I find the grind enjoyable, and I just want to keep playing the game. I will say that this game is definitely not for everyone. This game is hard, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's no tutorial, no inherent help, and the only improvement that you can get is from the time you put in and dedicating to getting better at your movement, your strategies, and your decision making. If you're into this kind of game though, I highly recommend you pick it up and see if you could beat my personal best, which is about 406 seconds at time of recording, I believe. And let me know what you think about the game. That's all I had at this time. If you enjoyed the review, please drop a like and a sub as it helps me personally. And leave in the comments down below if you want to see me review any other games or play any other games or whatever. And if you have any additional questions, the best place to ask them would be at my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/NickDenny, as I'm there several times a week. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.